Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into Transcendental Meditation.
For
TM, right? TM.
You got it.
And, some of you listening might already be familiar with it. Maybe you've heard about how it can help you feel calmer, or maybe you're even looking into different meditation techniques right now to maybe boost your focus.
Yeah.
Whatever your reason for tuning in is, we're going to really try to go beyond just scratching the surface with TM.
Definitely.
We want to really understand not only how it works, but the science behind it too. And what are the real benefits for well-being? And of course, we'll address any of those common questions or misconceptions that people often have about TM along the way.
Exactly.
Because I think it's safe to say that TM has really gained a lot of popularity.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone from everyday folks just looking for a little more peace of mind,
Right.
to some pretty big names like Oprah.
Oh, yeah. Oprah's a big fan.
And Hugh Jackman
Jackman loves it.
have talked about how much they love TM.
They swear by it.
So let's get down to it. Where did this whole thing even start?
Well, TM was developed by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and that was back in the 1950s.
Okay.
And what's really interesting is that it has roots in these ancient Vedic traditions, but he really adapted it and streamlined it for our modern world.
Huh.
The demands of modern life.
So it's kind of like a practice with this really long history, but designed for how we live today.
Exactly.
I like that. So, okay, how does it actually work? What's the main thing you do when you practice TM?
So the heart of the technique is using a personalized mantra.
Okay.
But it's not those affirmations you might repeat.
Right.
Or a word that has some specific meaning you're trying to think about.
Gotcha.
It's more of a sound.
Okay.
And it doesn't really have a defined meaning. And you use it as a tool to kind of help your mind settle down naturally.
Interesting.
So you're not actually trying to focus on the mantra intensely.
Right.
You're just allowing it to kind of lead you to this state that they call restful alertness.
Restful alertness.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of paradoxical.
I know, right?
So it's not like other types of meditation where you're trying to empty your mind or force yourself to concentrate on one thing.
Not at all.
Okay, so that's a pretty big difference then.
Yeah, it's a key difference with TM.
Because I've tried some meditation and it's the harder I try not to think, the more I end up thinking.
Exactly. It can be a real struggle.
Yeah, this sounds completely different.
Yeah.
Now, in the stuff we looked at, there's this really interesting analogy about TM being a mental dive.
Oh, yeah.
Can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure. So basically, you know how when you dive underwater, you're going beneath the surface?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like that with your thoughts.
Yeah.
You're using the mantra almost like an anchor
Okay.
to help you go beyond all those surface level thoughts.
So it's not like you're holding onto the anchor for dear life.
No.
It's more like it's guiding you down
Exactly.
deeper into quiet.
To those quieter levels of awareness. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now one thing that our source material really stressed was that you have to learn TM from a certified teacher.
Yes.
So why is that? Why can't you just download an app or read a book about it?
Well, because a huge part of TM is the personalization.
Okay.
And so when you learn from a certified teacher, they give you your own specific mantra.
Oh, interesting.
Based on you as an individual.
Kind of guessing there's a reason why you can't just pick your own.
Right. They have specific training to do that.
Okay.
And they help you understand how to use it correctly.
Right.
So it's not just knowing what the mantra is, it's about learning the right way to practice to make it effective.
I got it. So you really need that personalized guidance to get started.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the science now.
Okay.
Because our sources mention that there's a ton of research supporting TM.
Yeah, there's actually over 600 peer-reviewed studies.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot. And they've found some pretty impressive stuff.
Like what?
Well, for one, there's research published in the American Journal of Cardiology showing that TM can actually help reduce hypertension.
Oh, wow. So that's a pretty big deal for heart health.
Huge.
Yeah. And I think I remember seeing something about anxiety too.
Oh.
That TM helps with anxiety.
Definitely. A study from Harvard found that people who practice TM had a significant decrease in their anxiety levels.
How much are we talking?
Around 44%.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And what's even more interesting is that TM actually outperformed other relaxation techniques that they were looking at in that study.
Really?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that people felt less anxious.
No.
There were actual physiological changes happening.
Exactly.
So what kind of changes did they see?
Well, there's research in the Journal of Clinical Psychology that found people who regularly practice TM had much lower cortisol levels.
And cortisol is that stress hormone, right?
The big one, yeah.
Right, so their stress hormones were actually decreasing.
Exactly.
How much?
Some studies have shown like around a 30% decrease.
That's huge. So it's not just like a feeling, it's like a real biological change.
Right, your body's actually becoming less stressed.
That's amazing.
Ah.
Okay, so what about the brain? What's going on in our brains when we do TM?
So one of the really cool things that they found is that TM increases coherence between the two hemispheres of the brain.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak neuroscience, what does that actually mean?
Basically, it means that the different parts of your brain are communicating better with each other.
Okay.
And this has been linked to better focus, improved creativity, and better problem-solving skills.
So it's like TM helps your brain work more efficiently.
Like a system reboot for your mind.
I like that analogy. Okay, so how does TM compare to other popular types of meditation, like mindfulness, for example?
Right, so mindfulness is a really popular one.
Yeah.
And they're both forms of meditation, but they approach things in different ways.
Okay, how so?
With mindfulness, you're actively paying attention to your thoughts, your feelings and sensations,
Right.
without judging them. Or you might be focusing on your breath. But with TM, the idea is to go beyond thought completely.
So it's not about actively engaging with your thoughts?
No, it's about transcending them.
Interesting. Okay, and what happens in your body when you transcend thought like that?
Well, TM actually triggers your body's rest and digest response.
Oh, wow. So it's like the opposite of fight or flight.
Exactly.
So that explains why people feel so calm and relaxed afterwards.
Right. It helps lower your heart rate and blood pressure.
Makes sense. So it's not about working on your thoughts, it's about letting your mind and body settle into this deep rest.
Exactly.
And that has all these positive effects.
It does.
Okay, so let's get back to the personalized instruction, because the fact that you don't get to choose your own mantra is really interesting.
Yeah.
So why is that?
So the certified teacher picks a specific mantra for you based on like your personality and stuff.
Really?
The idea is that the sound of that particular mantra will resonate with you on a deeper level.
Huh, so it's tailored to you.
Exactly.
Okay, so what does the actual learning process look like?
So the standard TM course is 4 days long,
Okay,
and each session is about an hour.
gotcha.
And the first session is one-on-one with the teacher.
Okay,
That's when you get your mantra and they teach you the basics of how to practice.
and then the other 3 days?
Those are usually group sessions
Okay.
where you get more guidance and tips.
So it's not just like, here's your mantra, good luck.
No, they make sure you understand how to do it properly.
That's good. Okay, so our source also talks about this idea called the Maharishi effect,
Yeah.
which is about how TM might have a wider impact on society.
It's a really fascinating idea.
Yeah.
It suggests that when a lot of people practice TM together, it can actually create positive changes in the community.
Really?
Like lower crime rates and stuff.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It is, but it's also pretty controversial.
Right, because how do you even measure something like that?
Exactly.
But it's a cool idea to think about.
Definitely.
Okay, so one last thing that our source addressed head on was this idea that TM is a religion. Can you clear that up for us?
Sure. So even though TM has roots in ancient traditions, it's actually taught as a completely secular practice.
Meaning it has nothing to do with religion.
Exactly. It doesn't involve any religious beliefs, rituals, or anything like that.
Gotcha.
People of all faiths, and even people who aren't religious at all, practice TM.
So it's really accessible to anyone.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's wrap things up.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about how Maharishi Mahesh Yogi developed TM and how it uses a personalized mantra to help you reach this state of restful alertness.
Right.
And we looked at all the research that shows how beneficial it can be for stress, anxiety, and even brain function.
And we talked about how TM is different from other meditation techniques.
Yeah, like mindfulness.
Exactly. And how it triggers that rest and digest response, which is so good for your body.
And of course, we talked about the personalized instruction and that whole Maharishi effect thing.
Which is a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is. And we made sure to clarify that TM is not a religion.
It's for everyone.
Exactly. So what's the main takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the big takeaway is that TM is a really unique and well-researched practice.
Yeah.
And it has a very different approach to improving your well-being.
Right. It's not like anything else out there.
Exactly.
And I think the idea that you can achieve this deep sense of calm and awareness without having to force it is really appealing.
Especially in today's world where everything is so hectic and stressful.
It is. So here's something for you to think about. We talked about reaching a state of restful alertness, where you're both calm and aware.
Right.
So think about the different areas of your life where you could use a little more peace and focus.
Yeah.
How could you apply this idea of restful alertness to those areas?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
It is. It might lead you to some interesting discoveries.
Definitely.
And maybe even inspire you to explore TM a little further.
You never know.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.